global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them. Crises precipitate change.
Secretly plotting your demise. I want to devise a...
Hello everyone, Darko2012 here with Global Government News. Thank you for joining me on this article, which is titled Schumer Graham Use Immigration to Push National Biometric ID Card. This was written by Kurt Nimmo on March 9th, 2010 from Infowars.com. It says, Democrat Chuck Schumer and Republican Lindsey Graham have joined forces in an effort to force a biometric ID on the American people. The new national ID scheme is part of a comprehensive immigration bill now in the Senate. It says Schumer and Graham want every American worker required to have a biometric ID card in order to work. Under the potentially controversial plan still taking shape in the Senate, all legal U.S. workers, including citizens and immigrants, would be issued an ID card with embedded information such as fingerprints to tie the card to the worker, reports Wall Street Journal. It says here in this caption over here, Germany has introduced a biometric national ID card. It will be required of all citizens beginning November 1st, 2010. It goes on here and it says Schumer and Graham, who face an, quote, uphill effort to pass a bill, plan to meet with Obama this week in order to update him. An administration official told the Journal the White House has no position on the controversial ID card. And just real quick, I'm not going to go into it too much, but I do know that they have the biometric hand or thumb scans at the airports now. They're called kiosk, and they're like the body scanners. They're not a requirement. They are optional, but they're just sitting there in the wing waiting, and it makes it faster. It makes things easier, more convenient, and that's how it gets rolled out. So, and there's always reasons, why people will need to have this thing. According to what I know so far, it's most of our driver's licenses or state IDs are in a national database, federal database. So, technically we have a national ID already. They're just trying to get us to have a biometric scan, which our pictures that we use for our licenses uses biometrics as well. And that's why they don't like you to smile. And so here where I live in the Midwest, in my state, they just passed it to make it so that you have to not smile when you take your driver's license photo. It says previous efforts to force a national ID on the American people have ended in failure. It's because we're not all slaves, right? Shortly after September 11th, 2001, Congress took up the idea of requiring every citizen to have a national ID card before the election of 2004. They revisited the issue. And it's just like I said anyways, right? Section 403C of the Patriot Act specifically requires the federal government to, quote, develop and certify a technology standard that can be used to verify the identity of persons applying for or seeking entry into the United States on a U.S. visa for, quote, the purposes of conducting background checks, confirming identity, and ensuring that the person has not received a visa under a different name. It says prior to September 11th, 2001, the government pushed for a national biometric identification system. Both the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Act of 1995, a welfare reform law, and the Immigration Control and Financial Responsibility Act of 1996, an immigration reform law, called for the use of, quote, technology for identification purposes. In 2005, Congress passed the Emergency Supplemental Appropriation Act for Defense, the Global War on Terror, or I like to say the Global War on Sovereignty and Liberty, and Tsunami Relief, or REAL ID. Quote, states were originally given until May 2008 to comply with the law, but widespread resistance resulted in the federal government changing that deadline not once, not twice, but 3 times, noted the 10th Amendment Center. More than 24 states have passed resolutions or binding laws opposing the act, rendering the Bush-era law nearly null and void in practice. Bottom line, nullification works. Senator Graham does not believe his biometric national ID scheme will violate the privacy of Americans. Quote, "We've got all the social security cards," he said. "They're just easily tampered with. Make them tamper-proof. That's all I'm saying." Graham is the only Republican to publicly announce support for a law requiring Americans to hold a biometric national ID card, and he wants at least one other GOP co-sponsor to launch the effort. I'm sure he won't have a problem doing that. According to the journal, biometric data for the card would likely be either fingerprints or a scan of the veins in the top of the hand. It would be required of all workers, including teenagers, with current workers needing to obtain the card only when they next change jobs. Employers would be required to purchase a scanner. A biometric ID system is not about securing the border or preventing terrorism. It is about tracking citizens. By far, the most significant negative aspect of biometric ID systems is their potential to locate and track people physically. While many surveillance systems seek to locate and track, biometric systems present the greatest danger precisely because they promise extremely high accuracy. Whether a specific biometric system actually poses a risk of such tracking depends on how it is designed, explains the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And of course, we know the nefarious reasons for having this, right? And it's all about so much of it being a conspiracy theory as it is just opening your eyes and seeing all of this being put into place, and it's all being put into place all for an attack, which I believe was allowed to occur. And so based on that, we had the Patriot Act, we had all the spying, all the torturing. Basically, we're still under a state of emergency from 9/11, and so martial law is in effect, and it just doesn't really matter what happens. They can bring troops on the ground because we're in a state of emergency. And so that's how we roll. That's how we do it. And everything is in the name of 9/11. So earlier this month, a biometric ID card was introduced at a very large technology show in Hanover, Germany. The card will be mandatory for all Germans on November 1st, 2010. Quote, "The card has three functions. 1, biometric identity verification. 2, electronic identity verification. And 3, I guess it says authenticity. I can't pronounce that. It's authentication, electronic signature. Sorry." And that was Fox News who reported that on March 2nd. So basically, making sure it's your signature. So I mean, this is there's different ways that they go about getting the whole RFID chip, which is something that they would really like. But it's just great that people aren't as stupid as they think we are, right? Whoever these people with this nefarious plan are. Obviously there's been enough resistance to it to we're not just going to take a chip in their forehead and in our hand. And so they'll just keep trying. They'll keep trying and trying and trying. That's how these people roll. They just keep trying, and eventually they'll get it. Well, hopefully they don't. I'll keep my fingers crossed and hope the best. But let's just hope that they don't get what they want. So, thank you.